he is the best driver.
That cannot have been a surprise.
That's going to really irk him.
He's the greatest at what he does.
That is an accusation that could also be levelled at me. Hello and welcome to The Inside Track, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of Formula One through our exclusive access to Red Bull Racing. I'm Rick Edwards, journalist, broadcaster, Formula One fan.
And I'm sports journalist Matt Majendie.
On today's show, we'll discuss Max Verstappen's record-breaking weekend, got both the fastest Formula One lap in history and the fastest Formula One race on record. Sublime weekend from him. We're going to obviously chat about McLaren's awkward pit stop, talk about why it was, and I'm quite pleased with this, a less-than-bonza Monza for Piastri. It's good, isn't it? And we'll also ask, is this title fight ever going to get nasty? By which I mean, I want it to. And we'll take a look at some of your comments after last week's episode, some of which are not complimentary. And also, in light of Max's success on the weekend, we ask, are there going to be even more lap records to come this year? As always, if you want to watch this episode or get the latest video content from race day, subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Inside Track podcast. So Matt, it was a weekend of records, as I just mentioned, for Max Verstappen and Red Bull. It was just a great weekend for him and, well, the team, although we'll come on to where it wasn't so good. And for me, it was just such a timely reminder that Max Verstappen in a good car, or a car that is, going to go run the track, is so good. Like, he is the best driver. And in the McLaren dominance, maybe that was getting a bit lost, but like, he just is the best driver.
Yeah, he is unbelievable. He is so good. But the difference being with this one, we had the Suzuka brilliance, the Imola brilliance, but here he actually had, come the race, the quickest car. Like, the car proved to be quicker than McLaren, and everyone said that was unexpected, whether him, members of his team, McLaren, everyone else on the grid. It was a really sort of blow your mind race and weekend.
Is this all about the skinny wing?
So it's a combination of factors. So they've gone for the skinny wing. Basically, you almost have to go back a year ago to explain this weekend. They got it very wrong in Monza last year. They were totally and utterly off the pace. Yeah. And so they learned the lessons from that. So it's a combination of a skinnier wing, but the main part of it was everyone working together as a team. So we talk about Verstappen's brilliance, but it was just the constant tinkering of this car from Friday, when it wasn't right, to get the balance just so, into an absolute sweet spot for qualifying. And that involved a lot of toing and froing negotiations between Pierre Vacher, between the other engineers, and Max Verstappen. And it seems that Laurent Mekies gave Verstappen more say in this as a driver than in the past.
That's interesting.
The inference is that he had that much more input. And why shouldn't he? He's the guy who's got a natural feel for the car. He's the person in it. He's not an engineer. Although, interesting, his dad said to me, he pretty much has an engineering brain because he's been learning this from such a young age. Yeah. And the combination of those factors brought a little moment of magic. But then when qualifying happened, I thought, okay, moment of magic. This is Imola and Suzuka, but it won't happen in the race, will it? And then sure enough, blooming hell, the car was near on perfect, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then you had that little bit of sort of classic Verstappen tough racing at
the start.
Lap. Yeah,
I love that.
Which you gotta love. You have got to love it. And you sort of, I think, if you are Lando Norris, I mean, obviously he was annoyed about getting forced onto the grass, but you also know in that position against Max Verstappen, he is going to do that to you.
He literally, that cannot have been a surprise. He knew that was coming.
No.
So but I loved it. It was great, that start, that opening bit, and then as he pulled away, it felt like the McLarens would reel him in, or they'd get the right stretch, or whatever would happen. But because it was a one-stopper, because the tyre degradation wasn't massive, so the advantage they normally have, this aerodynamic efficiency advantage, and the tyre advantage they have on these hot tracks where there's graining and blistering on the tyres. Those two big advantages that put them head and shoulders above the others, that didn't happen in Monza. So we need to see if this is an anomaly weekend or whether actually this is progress. There are signs that there was progress before this in Zandvoort. It's been coming. Whether they can continue to deliver it, but it was great to see the scenes of celebration. Like, I don't think they cared that it was the fastest lap ever, the fastest race ever. They just the win and the delirium on the pit wall with the mechanics. Did you see Verstappen leaping into them like properly? It was great, and to see Pierre Vacher up there getting the trophy as well, which I think sort of told a bit of the story. They always put up the person who perhaps deserves the most credit. So it was interesting that I guess Mekies put him forward.
I think as well, big for Mekies. That's his first win as boss, isn't it?
He had the sprint win, didn't he? In the very, very first race he had. I know it's not the same.
It doesn't count.
But a pretty good opener for him. But to pull off that win, and they've been very clear. Like Helmut Marko has post race has talked about, this is the Mekies effect. This is having an engineer in the team. This is having someone who's willing to have those conversations and push the thing. Whether he's just doing a little post dig at Christian Horner there, I don't know. But clearly, Laurent Mekies has had quite an influence. Interestingly, though, Mekies, when asked about it, what his influence, how big a part did he play? He said 0, which I thought was really cool. And then mentioned the 1,500, 2,000 members of staff that have worked to make this possible. He should take 0 credit, which I think is quite a good play from him.
Yeah, that's what you want from a boss, a leader, isn't it? Say, no, this is a big team effort. But he knows what he's done, I'm sure. There was also, it was just very, I was going to say refreshing, not quite the right. Yeah, it's been a little bit boring, it just being McLaren's all the way ahead. And when Lando took the place from Max, you did just think, oh, so now maybe then Piastri just sort of, catches up with Max and it's another McLaren. So when he then clearly had the pace and went past Lando Norris, I was like, oh, come on. And then from that point on, actually, the race was not that exciting at the front because he just looked so comfortable, didn't he?
There was that point where he's within DRS and you're like, okay, he's got past him, but he's going to get, Norris and Piastri will get past him, and then he's just pulling further away. And then every single lap he's got more time. And then suddenly that we had that blistering of the tyre and thinking, oh, wait a second, is something going to happen there? But then he pitted, came out, and by the end of it, I think even if there'd been a safety car, he was so clear he would have been fine, which is amazing, really. Like it was like a 2023 Max Verstappen, a 2023 Red Bull Racing. That's how that weekend felt. That season where they dominated virtually everywhere. It was so impressive. I mean, it was a masterstroke of a team. It's sort of quintessentially Red Bull. They started and they were okay on the Friday. They were, they showed pace. They were in the mix, but people weren't really necessarily talking about Verstappen getting pole, and sure enough, he pulled it off. They just managed to develop or tinker to get it just so. Whether it's again that tiny operating window, the car is in its sweet spot. Whether that happened or not, I'm not sure. But we'll see in Baku and beyond.
And here's the caveat then. What's your boy up to?
Old Yuki.
Yeah.
Well, he qualified, got into Q3. That was good. That didn't go so well for him.
Grubbing around there for positives, I think.
There was a bit of a change to Max's floor, which I don't think he had that, but I don't think that should have made the difference. Whatever it was, 0.7. There was a big difference, and then you've got Hajar, who you think's going to be absolutely no chance because he's starting from the very back in the pit lane, and then again he pulls off a pretty good drive. So Yuki does need to pull off some. I think if he was to pull off some good drives in the subsequent races, actually consistently getting the points, I think he'd secure the seat. But if he continues having weekends like that are happening, then they're going to look elsewhere to Isaac Hajar.
Yeah, I mean, how much does it come? So we've got 8 races left in the calendar.
Yeah.
And undoubtedly, someone like Helmut Marko is going to be watching the performance of those 2 drivers like a hawk. And that presumably Yuki is aware of that and knows that really he needs to start bettering the performance of Isaac Hajar. Otherwise, it's probably done for him.
He's been very open in the clips that we've had and me talking to him about how aware he is of the pressure and how he is driving for his future, and he doesn't shy away from that. So he is acutely aware of that. And I don't know whether that makes it harder because the pressure then builds, and so you almost push on the car and then mistakes happen. Whereas Hajar looks incredibly at ease and at one and comfortable with that car. He needs some good races and fast, consistently in the points needs to be the prerequisite, and not a million miles away from Max Verstappen. We opened the show talking about Verstappen's brilliance, and that can sometimes skew how lesser the second driver looks, but he does need to get a lot closer than he did this weekend.
in my day job, I spoke to Alex Albon
Yes.
this week. So before this weekend's race, and he was. I mean, I know this from having spoken to him before. He was absolutely brilliant, and he was so interesting about the difficulties of that second seat and the fact that he probably feels slightly vindicated by, I think when he was, like booted out and maybe had his struggles, although he did actually, when you look back at it, did pretty well at times. Maybe people didn't quite realise how impossible a job it is driving in the second seat to Max Verstappen. And then he was saying that he tried to give a bit of advice to people on how to handle that. But it was fascinating talking to someone who has been through that pressure.
I remember reading a piece that someone did on how hard it is being Max Verstappen's teammate. And Albon, there was a nice quote that he said, the way the car and the touch and the feel that Verstappen had, it felt like all you had to do was blow on the steering wheel if it was for Albon in the thing, and it would go off kilter. It was that much the finesse, and that's the bit he couldn't cope with that. It was just on this sort of such a fine line, as good a driver as he was, and that immediately gets in your head as a driver, and he couldn't cope with that. I think he's always been really good and frank and honest about how he stacked up against Verstappen. But you're right, his stock has risen again, and he's consistently driving brilliantly.
Another great race, yeah,
absolutely great, because they'd arrived for the weekend looking good, Williams, and then qualifying had been
disappointing.
A bit crap.
Qualifying,
yeah, it was disappointing, not where I expected them to be, and then he made up for it in the race. Unlike his teammate who had another tough day at the office. I don't know why I'm laughing, but I don't know what he was doing as well, Carlos Sainz, in that with Ollie Behrman.
With Behrman, no. So let's talk about McLaren. Ultimately, the most interesting thing was just that decision that they made.
I know. What did you make of it? Like, how did you stand on it? Because I've sort of bounced across between, but I think I'm okay with where I am now.
I could be convinced either way, to be honest. I completely get the reason that McLaren decided to do that, because it does seem like the fairest thing to do if you assume that had they brought the cars in a different order, then the problem would have happened for Piastri and not Norris, and therefore it's slightly, it's unfortunate. And they'd said, this is not going to change your race position. So then when it did, they felt that they had to, fine. However, it is just one of those, like, the pit stop is part of the race, and you can get unlucky. And I kind of, do you know what I really liked?
You're going to say Max Verstappen's comment.
No, I mean, I did like him laughing. that was funny. I liked Piastri's reaction in the moment.
Yeah,
because I was like, this is what I would like to see a bit more of. Like, just a bit of, like, every now and again you get those little glimmers, don't you, of like, this is like a...
He's like, I'm not happy with it, but I appreciate this is the team and I'm going to do it. I just thought that was really coolly and calmly delivered.
Yeah. And then afterwards, when he was talking about it, he was a bit more like, oh yeah, completely understand, blah. But in the moment, he was annoyed in the way that I want a fierce competitor to be annoyed. Yeah. And
he'd listened to last week's episode, so he was reacting to your comments, perhaps.
Well, yeah, I also interviewed him in my day job this week, and I felt quite guilty because I liked him. You're right, likable man.
Yeah,
very likable man. And I thought, does he listen to the Insights? Probably not, but let's hope not.
But I think I'm with you where I am with that, because they made that call and the lead driver should normally come in and pit first. But the way it was going to work, it was more sensible to bring in Piastri first. But Lando has the reassurance. It's not a good look, though. Like, while I thought it was correct to give it back, it's not always a good look for people in the stands. I think there was a bit of booing potentially. People watching on TV, if a place is given back like that, but I totally get it. And it was quintessentially McLaren, wasn't it? We're all about racing fair. We're all about team principles, the orders,
so nice.
etc. Yeah, and they're not even. I mean, Piastri just a modicum of being peed off, but only like a sprinkling.
Yeah.
Because everyone talks about, and we've had this so many times about when the championship is going to get nasty. Maybe it never will.
Well, do you know what? If, let's say, for example, next race, Baku, Piastri has a sort of Norris style stroke of bad luck, a problem, has to retire. Lando wins it. Suddenly, the lead is right down to, what would it be? 6
Yeah.
points then, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Then that 6-point swing that all feels quite nicey now, I think that's going to really irk him, and justifiably so. And then I wonder if you start getting...
It's interesting because I wasn't there at the race. I was watching on Sky Sports, and he on the TV coverage, and I think Ted Kravitz had talked about interviewing Piastri, and Piastri made it clear that he only wanted to win the title fair and square, like on the track, which sort of summed up. So I wonder, that's what he wants to do. He doesn't want to win it by an error, a mistake in a pit stop of his teammate. I think he wants to win it outright. You'd still say he's the person front and centre to do it, because it doesn't seem
completely. Yeah,
he's not making mistakes. Generally, the car's been incredibly reliable. I know Lando had that bad luck, but it just adds to the story if it's suddenly 6 points, and then there's the few that he was able to give away to Lando.
Yeah, it does feel like it won't be an Oscar mistake. It would be a car reliability thing. But the point that I think a lot of people have made in the wake of this is you can think of so many great examples of teammates who, if they'd been given that instruction, would have absolutely either ignored it completely or really kicked off. And it does sort of slightly, it just makes you wish it was a bit more like that, because it's a bit more fun.
I think they're looking at the bigger picture, not just this season, but they've both got massive long-term deals. It's sort of sensible. But yeah, you do.
McLaren are doing the right thing. I'm sure they are. It's just, I'm just talking for a fan.
But it's a cackling Max Verstappen would not have. We heard him laughing down the race radio. He would not have done that. He would have said some quite choice language or remained totally silent. Do you know what I mean? So there is that difference there.
Max, you're gonna have to let Yuki past.
But he's 8 places behind me.
Yeah.
Same gag. Oh dear.
And then who else to talk about? Well, the Ferraris. Obviously, that crowd, the Tifosi, they're amazing, and I guess they were given a bit more to cheer about than they might have thought going into the weekend. Like Hamilton had a pretty good race given where he started.
I think they'll be disappointed though on the pace. That the pace wasn't there. There was sort of it sort of got the feeling on Friday that maybe in practice there was enough pace for them to be competitive, and maybe Charles Leclerc to sneak in a pole or be there about. And they just were not there, were they? Lewis, I thought, great to get from where he was up to 6th, was it by the end?
Yes.
I mean, they're just mad. Do you see that bit where Nico Rosberg would just sort of wave at the crowd, and even him was making all the Tifosi go mad? This sea of red behind the podium afterwards, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and imagine if they got someone on there. But yeah, I mean, the thing with the Friday when Ferrari looked quick is you do always have to remember that Charles Leclerc is just really, really he can look quick. It's sort of race pace that they seem to struggle with, isn't it?
I genuinely.
But they're still
thought...
second in the constructors. I know.
But I did think they'd be quicker. I really did think they'd be quicker.
Yeah.
I think I had Charles Leclerc naively in my top 3, but as it turned out,
just because I spoke to him this week, I should say again, Alex Albon, lovely drive in the Williams, ending up 7th. So he's been 5th and 7th, both times coming from sort of 14th, 15th in the last 2 races. I feel like people are starting to put the respect on his name that was probably been due for a while. He's performing really well, isn't he?
I think he's been getting that gradually. Even when Williams were less competitive, he was still producing amazing drives in comparison to his teammate. But just consistently being there in the points at a point where it looked like Williams would be tailing off because they made it clear they're focusing on 2026. I am really, really interested to see what car that team comes up with next season. If Albon can be, competitive, I'd love to see that. He's such a likable guy, funny guy, great driver.
Yeah.
He's just so often he just sort of quietly you're watching it and you're like, how's he 6th or 7th? You sort of suddenly comes from nowhere. It's sort of unnoticed.
Exactly that every time. Yeah, I would say he just keeps his nose clean.
He's very, very, he's the contrast to Carlos Sainz. He manages to avoid
filthy
the danger.
nose on Carlos Sainz.
What did you make of that Carlos Sainz, by the way? Because that he was in the wrong, wasn't he? Turning into not giving enough space for Ollie Behrman there. Did you?
Yeah, it's one of those actually where I think as a fan, I sort of have to be led by what sort of drivers and people who really know tell me. I find it really hard with those kind of situations. Like if someone had told me that was Behrman's fault, I think I'd probably go.
But if you'd had a gut instinct in that moment, and it's not always clear, but did you
instinct was Sainz was in the wrong.
Yeah.
But it felt quite marginal to me, or just something I wouldn't really. What did you think?
I thought Sainz was at fault. It was a narrow gap, but there was, I think, Behrman was half, alongside, so he has to allow a little bit of room from there. Yeah. It does.
There was a gap
instinct
though,
in that moment. Yeah, was him turning onto him. Anyway, it was seeing them then spinning and scuppering both their races in the process.
Yeah, classic stuff. I want to throw back to an episode we recorded back in July when you'd spoken with Pedals, Paul Monaghan from Red Bull, and you talked to him about upgrades on the car for 2025 when they would stop in the season, because then all of their sort of engineering might is thrown behind 2026 instead. This is what he said.
When do the upgrades stop coming? At what point? Like, is sort of Monza the last point, or I don't know? I'm just picking a date in the calendar.
There comes a point where the design resource will have to move across fully onto 2026 if we're going to get the car done in its various stages, up running it in Barcelona end of January. So if you look at that date and then you say, okay, up to that point we can have a fraction of that resource working on the 25 car, then that sort of sets a cut-off at which the design work and research work will stop. There is then a portion of time absorbed in manufacturing, production of sufficient quantities, and then to see it at the track. If we predict the last change on, I don't know, I'll pluck a race out of thin air at Monza, then you can work out we stopped some time ago on the 25 car to realise that.
And he then went on, I think, to mention Monza again as a possible cut-off. Have you got any further insight? Is that it now?
My understanding was always that Monza would be the end point. Now, I've not spoken to the team like post-Monza, to Pedals, for example. So I don't know if there are other little tweaks in the pipeline. There was never going to be anything major post-Monza, but whether they've got a few little tweaks because they saw the direction the car was going in from kind of pre-summer to this point. Because as he makes clear, it's not like, oh, actually we're doing well now. We're not going to suddenly come up with an idea now. These are, if they're still doing bits, these are ideas they've come up with and processes they've come up weeks beforehand. So it'd be interesting to see if there is anything more, but I can't imagine there's going to be anything monumental. Little tweak, they're perpetually tweaking the floor, and that's been the case for much of this season.
They love playing with that floor, don't they? Constantly fiddling.
Well, it's the biggest difference and change they can make. Now, what I love about them as a team is they are always just trying to just find a little bit here and there. Pedals has talked about all these brainy people back in the factory, calls them smarter than anything he can come up with, that are just looking at different ways, through simulation to see whether the modelling they do, whether that can make any difference. It's got to make sufficient difference for them to be doing it, because it's an expensive thing to do. It's not like an easy tweak. If you see these floors, they're absolutely massive. Have you seen a floor laid out before? Just a loose, big black
sort of. Actually, no.
Think of the sort of base of the car, essentially. Yeah. Between the two wheels, you've got the whole of the floor of that. See that it's quite a sizable. Even if you make a change, you're making quite big changes there. It's a big step for them to take each time. But they've clearly found something. We saw it slowly building. They found, I don't exactly what they've extracted. Interestingly, I don't know whether they fully know, because they've talked about how they're sort of firing left, right, and centre and trying to come up with solutions for the setup and the right car. Whether they've now totally worked out a proper solution going forward, will be interesting to see.
Anything I've missed from Monza? Anything else people are talking about?
I guess the one bit I'm interested in is that Red Bull had talked a lot about the stuff they were doing in simulation and how that wasn't always translating to the track. It seems this is the bigger moment where they're trusting the simulation a bit less and going more with human instinct more, whether that be a Verstappen, whether that be a Vache, whether that be a GP or whoever it is within the team. I quite like that, because that's what's one of the great things of Formula One. You've got this technology, the cutting edge technology, but also the human factor in it, leaning towards more faith in the human beings rather than the computers.
I do wonder as well, because this is such an area that AI could have a huge influence on, obviously. Yep. And I'm sure teams are using it to greater or lesser extents already. But yep. I wonder where the limits are, because it's that interface between driver and car and engineers. It feels like there's a sort of alchemy in there that maybe, at the moment at least, AI won't quite be able to access. But that might just be me being a romantic sort of Luddite. But
no, I love that. I think that's what the great thing of Formula One is. You're going to get more technology, we're going to get more AI influence, but you're still going to have that human nature. That it's. I've said this so many times. When you listen on the race radio to Verstappen, for example, talking about the feel of the car, like the slightest thing, he just has something that doesn't necessarily reflect on the models or the simulations or the maths that they're running. And I think that's fascinating. And you have to listen to that. He's the greatest at what he does.
Yeah, he's just blown on the steering wheel and giving him some problems.
Very good.
Okay, so that's the Italian Grand Prix all wrapped up. Next up, of course, Azerbaijan. Next, though, let's take a little look at our predictions. If you think I'm sounding quite chipper, that's because I am. Remember, 1 point for each driver on the podium. We correctly call 6 points an offer if we absolutely nail the 1, 2, 3. Still never happened. We're competing over the season against you, the audience, and also the AI, whose victory would give us all a horrible little shiver down our spines. So these are our Grand Prix predictions. Grand Prix predictions. Thank you. So, Matt, you have maintained your 4-point lead for some time. Can you remember who you went for?
Yes, I can. I went for Norris, Piastri, Leclerc.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. I got very worried when I was watching that I thought AI had a blinder and come up with a 3, but I remembered it incorrectly, I hope.
Yeah. No, you're safe there. I went Norris, Piastri, Verstappen. This
is the first week where you don't have to make an excuse of your 2-pointer being a better 2-pointer.
No, because my 3-pointer is better than your 2-pointer. I'm very, very happy about that.
Congratulations. I'm very gracious with it too.
As always, yeah. So just eating into that lead of yours. The AI predicted Piastri, Norris, Russell. George Russell, I mean, 5th was all right. I don't think he was... I don't think he's very happy at the moment, is he? The AI also said this. I don't know if I need an explanation from AI. It said, given Ferrari's struggles and Hamilton's compromised starting position, Russell has the best shot to break up the McLaren lockout. So just nonsense. I think this is quite indicative of AI. Says stuff that really sounds plausible with a kind of confidence, but often is that
totally misplaced.
It's just claptrap. Yeah. And I know that is an accusation that could also be levelled at me. So it got 2 points. And then our audience member selects at random. Laura Tyson on Instagram. She went Norris, Piastri, Leclerc. So that means the audience also gets 2 points. This is good news for me. Still in second, but now only 3 points behind you. You have 33. I've got 30. AI 27. Audience 25. So, I mean, I feel like I can reel you in. I'm excited.
Yeah.
So, I mentioned that there have been a few comments coming off the back of the last episode, and predominantly it was about me saying that Oscar Piastri is boring. Or did I say that he's boring, or did I say I find him boring? Either way, something along those lines. And some of the listeners were not delighted with this. Someone said, obviously another palm upset by Oscar's brilliance. Well, what I would say about that is the Brit-Aussie rivalry is one of the great rivalries in sport, and I'm very happy to sort of perpetuate it. So I have no issue at all with that. I like that. I like the fact that there's always a kind of, what we're talking about. There's needle between Aussies and Brits, and that's a good thing. Then I suspect the real reason you find him boring is because he's winning. There's some truth in that. There is some truth in that, I think. I never like it when someone is just too dominant. I don't think anyone, unless it's like a driver you specifically support.
Well, I was just going to say, we talked about how we like our drivers to be frail, Lando being a case in point, or you want them to be feisty aggressors like a Verstappen. And I think the point you were making was that Piastri's not either of those. He's a bit too cool, calm, collected. But you saw a little sprinkling of the needle. So, and now you've chatted to him. You're warming to him. Is this?
Really interestingly, I was already warming to him and liking him as we were having the conversation. He's just sort of, exactly as you said, he's a likable guy. And then at the very end, we had a quick conversation about the Ashes. He's a big cricket fan, and then he was quite punchy, and I really liked it. He was funny.
Did he go full Glenn McGrath and predict a 5-0 whitewash? Or
that is exactly what he did. Yeah, that is exactly what he did. Yeah, no, it's good, but that's sort of what I want. That's what I want from an Aussie sportsman. So yeah, I thought it was quite, and it was interesting that he's obviously got that, but maybe not about his own. Maybe he's just too focused on the driving to be giving that side of him, or it'd be a distraction or whatever. One person, I don't know if it was only one. Oh no, two people sort of backed me actually. If Max and Oscar were to share a classroom, Oscar would be that front row student who takes notes, and Max would be the class clown in the back of the class. I'm not sure I think Verstappen would be the class clown, but I take the point. Another one said, Oscar is the colour beige personified. That I think probably is unfair, just on the because his driving's not beige, actually, is it? Like, I think sometimes.
No, we talked about this. He's willing to be combative. He's the one that will push Verstappen, that will not give. I love that. Him on the racetrack is actually exciting. I think we'll see more and more of that. And as you know, I'm a fan. I think he's a nice dude, and I'm bringing you onto this side.
Yeah, I think you are. I think you're luring me. Well, he did it more than you did, I'll be honest. Now, we ought to talk a bit more about Max's record Formula One lap in a bit more detail. So the average speed, 164.4 miles an hour. It's just, if you think about that, that's beyond nuts.
I mean, that is so unbelievably fast, isn't it? I know it's the fastest circuit out there, but that is staggeringly fast. That must be incredible to do a hot lap with him in that. That would be something else, wouldn't it? Jesus.
You'd be jelly man, wouldn't you?
I'd be worse than I was in Monaco, for sure. Lolling all over the place. But I mean, that is so rapid, but you don't really get an awareness of it, do you, watching? It doesn't necessarily look way quicker than another.
No.
Yeah.
I did wonder about that. Maybe it's just because I knew, but when you're sort of on board, the onboard cameras, that it does feel quick. It does.
Okay. Yeah.
And I suppose there are just fewer. There's just a lot of places where they're absolutely bolting it. Before this weekend, the record was held by Lando Norris, who beat Lewis Hamilton's record, which was set in 2020. So we've had the record broken twice this year. Any chance we could see it broken again? Is there another circuit that is not really? I mean, Baku's quite quick, isn't it? But not that quick.
It's not going to be as quick as Monza, surely. I can't think of another circuit where that will get broken, of what we've got left. But Baku, I do like it. That's a good one.
Time to turn our attention to the next race on the Formula One calendar, which is Baku in Azerbaijan, taking place on Sunday, the 21st of September. So the track might again suit the Red Bull, mightn't it?
So this is the difficulty, because there's quite a few people it can suit. It's thrown up different winners in different years. There's different points where people fare well. I personally think that the McLarens will be back to the front again, but you'd think Red Bull should be in the mix. You would think Ferrari can be potentially. Ferrari have gone very well there. Charles Leclerc, it's a track he really likes, goes well. It's a track Lewis Hamilton really likes. If he can, continue that trajectory from the past weekend. So I always like going into a race weekend where there's that uncertainty with what Verstappen's done. Before we'd just be predicting it'll be McLaren. I think we could have a few people in the mix.
Okay, so it does make our predictions a little bit trickier. Matt, 3 points clear now. The audience still rooted to the bottom of the table. Who is your 1, 2, 3 for Baku? You look panicked.
I do look panicked. I don't know.
It's because I've eaten into your lead a bit, isn't it?
No, because there are quite a few permutations I could go with. I think.
No, it is because I've eaten into your lead.
Yes, psychologically you've broken me down. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to go with the Mercedes in the top 3. So I think, right, I'm going to go Lando Norris. This is why I do this all the time. Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc. Actually, I'm going to go with that at 3, and not Verstappen in the top 3.
Piastri, Leclerc.
You're going to put Verstappen in, because I remember you saying last time that you don't like to leave out Verstappen.
I'm going to go. Well, I'll tell you what the AI has gone for first. Norris, Piastri, Verstappen, which I think is fairly similar to yours. I am.
Oh, you're going to mix it up, aren't you?
I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I'm going Verstappen. I think Verstappen wins it again. I think he just, I think he's up for it. And then Norris, Piastri.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just don't see him winning that race. But
did you see him winning in Monza?
No, you make a fair point. Yeah.
Yeah, it could. Imagine if I get the 6 points here.
Imagine if you're so bad you fall away and I pull further clear. What excuses are you going to come up with then?
Oh. I can't. Oh, trust me, I'll come up with some excuses. And we will, as always, select a listener at random to represent you, the audience. If you want to throw your prediction in, you can. Just do it on our Instagram stories or on the YouTube comments. Also, a reminder to follow us on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or all 3. Search for the Inside Track podcast or check out the show notes. So we'll be back in 2 weeks' time to review the action from Baku, and we'll provide some exclusive insider insight, as always, from Team Red Bull. The Inside Track is funded and made by BBC Studios, a commercial company that is wholly owned by the BBC. It's produced and edited by John Weeks, video editing and social media by Georgina Revel, and James Cook is the executive producer.